Hey, welcome back. I've got this brand new original equipment power steering pump for this Honda Element, and I'm hoping that this will solve what I believe is bearing noise in the other one. Here's the noise I'm hoping to get rid of. What I've had to do is hook 2 wrenches together to loosen this belt. Now the bottom wrench is a 14mm, which fits over the nut of the idler pulley, and I couldn't get any other tools in there due to the closeness of the top of the shock tower frame mounting piece. I lowered my aftermarket cruise control to have more working room. This belt is a bear. Do not get your fingers under that belt. These wrenches are known to slip. Okay, the belt is loose. Idler pulley is no good. Well, I got the auto tensioner pulley, and in case I forget, the pulley bolt here is on at 41 foot-pounds. I may not be able to get 41 foot-pounds on it with my torque wrench because I don't believe I can get the torque wrench in there, so I will have to go by feel. To get better access to this tensioner pulley down here, I'm going to go ahead and take this power steering pump off. I was going to take this power steering pump off anyway, but if you were just replacing that tensioner pulley, then probably should remove this to get better access at it. There's most likely a bolt, a nut on the back side of this bolt. These bolts are 10mm. I loosened the the hose holding bracket at the back, so when I get ready to remove these bolts and move this hose, it will have more moving room. One thing I forgot to do that you should always do is put a bunch of paper towels or shop rags underneath this, because you're liable to spill some fluid down on the alternator. I'm gonna set the power steering, and I gotta say, this is one messy job, so you're gonna have to have plenty of rags. There are 2 pump mounting bolts, one down here and one up here, and they're both on at 16 foot-pounds. If you turn this pulley, fluid will come out. Don't do it. Okay, here's what one bolt looks like. The shop manual actually recommends taking the pump off with the hoses on it, and then taking the hoses off with it like sitting over here somewhere. Okay, there's the other bolt. I'm going to take this pump out. Lift it straight off. Decided to go ahead and buy this serpentine belt tool that fits Hondas. I'm going to be pushing towards the cab, and it is breaking that nut loose. So this serpentine belt tool, I'll leave a link where I got it. Go back to my other 14mm. Now, there may or may not be a nut behind this bolt. You'll want to keep in mind that when you pull that bolt out, not to lose that nut that's on the back side. Okay, there is a nut on the back side there. You can just barely see it in there. And the bolt screws in. Anyway, it screws into that nut, and you can lose that if you're not careful. So okay, you want to measure both of them to see that they're going to be identical, and of course they are. So I'm screwing the bolt in and holding the nut with the pinky on my right hand and trying to get the thread started. Okay, this tensioner pulley bolt is on with 41 foot-pounds, and you can get close to that with a wrench in your hand. So now that the pulley's on, now I have to go change the pulley from the old pump to the new pump. I'm going over to the vise. This bolt, this nut is on with 47 foot-pounds of torque. Let's see if this will work. Use a screwdriver to hold it. No problem. Pulley just comes right off. Okay, I'm using a 3/4 inch socket for lack of the proper socket, and it's a 6-point, 47 foot-pounds. Okay, gotta apologize for the wind again. New pump is ready to be installed. I transferred the plastic hose inlet from the other one. And probably we'll put the easiest bolt in first, of course, to get it started. And second bolt. Okay, these mounting bolts for the pump are on at 16 foot-pounds and a 12mm socket. "16 foot-pounds is not very much, and yet they were pretty tight when I took them off. I got to put the line that goes to the steering rack in. I transferred the plastic piece from the other one for the hose, and I did change the O-ring on it. Changing the O-ring on the line that goes to the steering rack. don't know what the torque is on those. Just get them snug. Anyway, next order of business is to remove the towels and hook up the serpentine belt, then put some fluid in it. And if I did my job correctly, this engine will sound a little quieter. It's always a little noisy when it's cold in the morning because the tappets need to be adjusted. But when it warms up, it's pretty nice. Okay, to wrap things up, this tool that I bought, it worked fine for breaking the pulley nut loose, but for tightening, this bend took away from some of the function of the tool, because on mine down here at the Element, it has a motor mount shock tower thing in the way, and to get to that pulley bolt down there, it needs to go just a little bit more towards the cab, and that bend does not help a bit. So anyway, I ended up using the 2-wrench method again. I used that to loosen the belt, put the belt back on, and to tighten the pulley nut on as best I could. I did put the front end up on jacks, and I rotated the steering wheel from turn to turn. Must have been 60, 80 times to try and get some of the air out of this pump. I'm really not happy with it. It still has a little whine to it. So until the next video, I want to thank you for subscribing. I want to thank you for watching. And Cars, Trucks, and Detours saying bye for now.